I told you that Nina Turner, she's running for Congress. And that is because Joe Biden picked Congresswoman Marcia Fudge to be the Housing and Urban Development Secretary, the HUD secretary. And we are still waiting for the governor to put up a date. But first off, Marcia Fudge for the general election. But first off, Marcia Fudge has to actually be given and appointed and put through the nomination hearings to be accepted. And so basically, what happens, she gets to the Senate, answers a couple questions, they confirm her hopefully, and then she's in. Well, Nina Turner went on MSNBC. And they did a gotcha question answer, and she smacked down this MSNBC host, and boy, is it awesome.
You called voting for Joe Biden like eating a bowl of sugar honey iced tea, I'll say, but you know what I'm talking about. How will you work with this administration after being so vocally critical about them during the campaign?
In that moment, Tiffany, I was just thinking about the suffering of people. And so sometimes I'm a hell-raising humanitarian, and sometimes I can be a little brazen at times, but no one can question my integrity for standing up for the people. And in that moment, I was just thinking about the suffering of people, the lack of health care, and especially in a pandemic where we know we absolutely need to have universal health care in this country. Folks not having clean water. It was those kinds of things that were swirling in my head and my mind at the time. But that does not mean disagreement, does not mean you can't work with someone. I want to give a very real example of the vice president-elect. We all may recall that during a debate, she really called out Vice President Biden's record, particularly saying, I was that girl. But now she is the vice president-elect. So that's just one example of how you can have fierce disagreement with somebody. You can go hard with somebody, or ham, as the young people say, and still be able to work with people. And I have a proven record of doing that. Tiffany, I declare today that I am willing and can work with anybody that is willing to stand up for the least of these, the poor, the working poor, and the barely middle class in this country.
That was splendid, man. That was splendid. Holy crap, that's awesome. Wow. Holy crap. So Nina Turner in the campaign did say that. Hey, voting for Joe Biden is like voting for a piece of shit or a bowl of shit. And look, she's right, because Joe Biden's offering you nothing. He's not really going to do anything for you. And I guarantee you, by the end of his term, nothing's really going to change. You're still going to have millions of people in poverty, millions without health care, millions without jobs, millions in bankruptcy. Just horrible, right? So nothing's going to fundamentally change, according to Joe Biden. So Nina Turner kind of laying down the smackdown there. So let me just say that lefties who voted for Joe Biden weren't doing it because Joe Biden was this, oh my God, beautiful. No, he wasn't this awesome candidate that was going to make drastic change and monumental change and an incredible feat that no one's ever seen before since FDR. No, everybody that said that was lying out of their teeth. Lying from their teeth, lying out of their asses, pulling shit from their ass. But look, please vote for Joe, right? And so, they were doing it because some of them who voted, well, most of them were like, he's not Trump. And look, Joe Biden's awful, he's god-awful, but Trump, we just cannot have a dictator in office. We can't have this, we can't have that. I think those people are stupid. I'm not going to lie to you. I really do think they are, because Trump agrees with the same exact thing that Joe Biden agrees with, except a little bit more or a little bit less, but just a terrible human. So either way, nothing is going to change. And so they voted for Joe again because he was the lesser of two evil. And look, when you have a candidate that offers nothing but a state of civility, for a lot of older people, That's what they want. They want civility. They're like, yes, please, right? So now you're gonna try and attitude police them. You're gonna try and say no, you can't work with Joe Biden. So I love what Nina Turner does here when she says, well, because she says, what were you thinking when you were saying that, huh? Why'd you say it would be like voting for a bowl of shit? And Nina Turner's like, you know what I was thinking about, Tiffany? I was thinking about the millions of people who have unclean water because of corrupt politicians in Michigan. And now we have the Flint situation and more. I'm thinking about the millions of people who don't have health care because of our corrupt politicians taking money from the insurance and the big pharma and in the pharma industry, the drug prescription drug industry. And now we have this terrible multi-healthcare system, that a multi-payer healthcare system that is ruining millions of lives. I'm thinking about the people who are losing their homes. I'm thinking about people who are losing their jobs. I'm thinking about people who need our help, who Joe Biden hurt, and who Joe Biden is going to hurt. Because let's be real, and really, people hate when you bring Joe Biden's record up. And they say, oh, it's a progressive conspiracy. No, it's not. Joe Biden, his voting record is awful. He voted for NAFTA, which offshored your jobs overseas. They closed down companies, locations here, and then they took your jobs, sent them overseas. You ended up without a job and without benefits. And then the government gave them tax cuts to do so. They give them more tax money out of your money, more contracts to do that. He voted for PNTR, Permanent Normal Trade Relations with China, which allowed China to become a global superpower and shut down a bunch of our companies, including Joe Biden's own a Chrysler factory in 2007 in not his own, but just in Delaware, where he's from and where he represents. He voted for the Iraq War. He voted for the war in Afghanistan. He voted for the Patriot Act and helped co-write it. He voted for the crime bill, which put 2 million people in jail, exacerbated the prison population, extended the war on drugs, put black and brown people in jail more than white people, longer sentences than white people. It put more cops in the streets, which is what we didn't need. He voted for the Wall Street bailout. I could continue on and on and on. And so what she's saying is, look, Joe Biden hurt a bunch of people. And I'm concerned about that. And now what she's also saying is, I will work with Joe Biden. I will work with anybody who wants to work with me, but on her terms. Nothing else but her terms. That's exactly the way it's gotta be. The way it's gotta be. So what she's saying is, okay, fine. Let's work together. If you want to work on issues of that, because that's the thing with about Nina Turner. She's not going to work on issues that she doesn't agree with, that don't stand up for the people, that don't help the people. So if Joe Biden actually means it when he says he wants to raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour, okay, Nina Turner will work with him on that. He wants to do UBI, Universal Basic Income. Every month you get a $1,000 or $2,000 check. She'll work with him on that. How about regulating Wall Street? She'll work with him on that. Single payer healthcare. She'll work on that. Which is Medicare for all. Free college. She'll work on that. What she won't do is work on deregulating Wall Street, giving them more tax breaks, voting for more war, voting to increase the military budget, which is already gigantic and we need to cut it. And I think she's right when she says, now I can also picture her working with, like Bernie Sanders worked with Mike Lee to end war, end the war in Yemen and end our aid to Saudi Arabia, who's causing that war. And now he's working with Josh Hawley for a $1,200 check. I can imagine Nina Turner working with Josh Hawley on something like that. I can imagine her working with someone like Rand Paul, who, yeah, he's been terrible this week, but he's great on war. Kinda, right? That his war stance is good. So just because you can't, just because you disagree doesn't mean you can't work with someone. And I think she masterfully said and added, well, look at Kamala Harris. She called Joe Biden a racist. And Joe Biden is a racist because Joe Biden worked with segregationists like Strom Thurmond, and he disagreed with busing black children across the country to their schools. He disagreed with that. And she said, I was that girl. But now, what do you see Kamala Harris doing? He picked her for the vice presidency. Joe Biden is the most amazing person ever. Joe Biden is the greatest ever. Joe Biden is so great. Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. I'm never going to say those things again because he picked me as VP. All Kamala Harris wanted was power. But her point is, Nina Turner's point is, if she can do it, I can do it. That's a good point. Nina Turner's going to be unapologetically progressive. She's going to stand up for the people. That's who she's going to stand up for. She's not going to be, hopefully, she's not going to be like the rest of the squad playing bullshit games of, oh, but we're looking for a committee seat. We're looking behind the scenes. No, that's bullshit. It's worthless. No, she's going to be unapologetically progressive. So what? She pisses off leadership. That's what she's there for. She's not there to make Nancy Pelosi happy or no, Nina Turner is there to be a wrecking ball, to be a person of the people, a congresswoman of the people, whether you're from the 11th district in Ohio, which is where she's running, or you're from Las Vegas, Nevada in the 3rd district. It doesn't matter. She's here for you. She's not there for Wall Street. And so I love the way she handled this question. It was a great, great way to handle the question. And what an honor it would be to have her in Congress.